And we're back. Welcome to part 2 of What About Nutrition on Westplex Radio. My co-host here, actually the host, I'm the co-host, is...
we should just drop that charade, Steve.
We
need to call ourselves co-hosts.
Yeah, we're just co-hosts. Steve Casper here with
Steve's trying to make my ego feel good, everybody.
And David Gollier. Mr. Nutrition is what I named him, but he really is. And you can tell by listening to the show, this guy knows his stuff. And by the way, all of your employees are so well trained.
Thank you.
And I always point out that when you go to, let's say, I'm just going to name names. Let's say you go to Sam's or Walmart or Costco, and they all have supplements and health aids and things like that. You can go through in the supermarket, but there's nobody to explain anything to you.
Right.
Okay? There's just the marketing on the bottle or whatever. And quite frankly, you have much better stuff anyway and lower price. And really, when you go to O'Fallon Nutrition, you're going to get the supplements. Let's say it's fish oil or this or that. You know, fish oil, for instance, real quick. There's something people don't know that's important in fish oil. Or the EDAH.
Oh, yeah, of course, the EPA and DHA and how many milligrams of that you're getting per... Yeah, what Steve's getting at that I think really makes good sense here for everybody is that there's all these little ins and outs and things to be aware of with these supplements, just like when you buy a computer and you go to the computer store and you've got somebody there that knows something you can talk to, and they say, well, listen, you need this many gigabytes of RAM, and you need this operating speed, and, oh, you don't need this software. You know, one of the things we do at O'Fallon Nutrition, Steve, is sometimes we don't sell people stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come in and ask us for something, and we start talking to them, and for one reason or another, we know that product does not make sense or might even be harmful for that person.
Sure.
We'll tell them not to buy it.
Yeah.
If you polled 100 of our customers, I bet 50 of them would tell you that at some point we talked them out of buying something.
Wow.
Because we're in it for the long haul. You know, just like you're here, you know, with the community, with the radio station for the long haul. That's what we're trying to do at O'Fallon Nutrition. And, you know, if we can help you avoid something that wouldn't be an ideal choice for you,
absolutely,
but that helps you do better over the long run, that's better for us.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we have folks in there, and we try to help you know the ins and outs of the products, make you aware of details, help you save money sometimes where you can. Occasionally there's situations where somebody comes in for the fancy product, but there's a good reason that the less fancy version of the same thing is going to work just as well for them. We'll tell you that. Or even consolidating supplements. Sometimes people come in and they say, I'm taking 800 supplements. I don't know what half of them do. Can we look at these and maybe, you know, par this down and accomplish the same result with fewer things? So, yeah, we do try to train the staff and keep everybody on top of things, and the staff is interested in this subject. And what we do is we talk to people. It's not hard selling. We just, you come in and we're going to have a conversation about whatever health aspect or supplement you want to have a conversation about.
Sure.
And in regards to allergies and sinusitis and all this fun stuff that comes about this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we just talked about how folks need to be aware that their diet does affect it. I mean, that's one just basic point I want everybody to know. How you eat can change how your body reacts to allergens.
Yeah.
Sure, you may always have allergies, but they're going to be more severe if you're gobbling up sugar and white flour and alcohol.
Yeah.
As opposed to like living off of grass-fed beef and berries and vegetables. Obviously, not very many people are on either of those extremes, but, you know, where you move yourself on those extremes can change how your body reacts to things.
Absolutely.
And even things like how inflamed you are and how much you hurt and all that stuff.
Sure.
So let's talk about some supplements that can be supportive during this time of year, during, you know, seasonal issues like this. Classics like the bioflavonoid quercetin. So flavonoids are just plant pigments. They're the things that give plants color. They're somewhat related chemically to things like vitamin C. Vitamin C actually is an antihistamine in its own right. Studies that I'm aware of show approximately 40% reduction in the release of histamine with relatively large doses of vitamin C. And quercetin is another thing that's had extensive studies that have shown that it reduces the release of histamine, as well as these other chemicals called leukotrienes. Leukotrienes are something that the drug Singulair tries to go after. They're another chemical that can increase allergy symptoms, increase inflammation. Leukotrienes are particularly implicated in asthma. And so quercetin has this wonderful, remarkable ability to reduce the release of histamine and leukotrienes, as well as serotonin, which we think of as a good mood hormone in the brain, and it is. However, it's also an immune system hormone that can contribute a little bit to allergic symptoms. So quercetin, derived from things like onions and garlic. It's one of the most common flavonoids or plant pigments found in food. And we also, of course, have supplements at O'Fallon Nutrition. Quercetin is not absorbed really well into the bloodstream, so often it's combined with a supplement called bromelain, which is an enzyme derived from pineapples. And bromelain is thought to help pull quercetin into the bloodstream. And bromelain can have some anti-inflammatory effects in its own right. And one really cool thing is we talked about how things can float around in the bloodstream and they trigger an allergic response. Bromelain, because it digests proteins, if bromelain is absorbed into the bloodstream, it's also thought to have the ability to dissolve these compounds, which trigger the allergic response. So our philosophy with supplements is that we try to use enzymes like bromelain to hopefully dissolve compounds that might trigger the allergy. And then you have compounds such as vitamin C and quercetin, which actually in studies reduce the response to the allergen.
Ah, I see.
And if we combine that with number 3, which is topic 1 of today, which is your diet, we want to have fewer allergens and inflammatory foods coming in the first place. So we see how we start really getting like a 1-2 punch.
Sure.
We reduce the allergens coming into the body by trying to avoid things like, white flour, sugar, alcohol. Now, sugar and alcohol aren't necessarily allergens, but they, through mechanisms, predispose us to reacting more to those allergens. And, of course, if you know you're allergic to some category of food, avoiding that usually helps. But that goes without saying. Now, we talked about quercetin and vitamin C for reduction of histamine. Another all-star is the plant stinging nettle.
Yes.
And so stinging nettle is another one that actually has potent anti-histamine, anti-inflammatory effects.
Really?
Yeah, and what happens is these are often put together. So, we don't even have to name names of things and stuff like that, but there are dozens of good supplements out there that combine some or all of these, sometimes with additional supporting herbs like barberry, elderberry, berry sources of vitamin C, etc. There's hundreds of things you could do. And a store like O'Fallon Nutrition has a number of these items in the store where we have combinations of things like vitamin C, stinging nettle, quercetin, bromelain, certain B vitamins that are supportive of this as well. So you can really come in and for a reasonable price get something that can have a big effect on your release of histamine. I can't say things cure allergies or anything like that, but I can say that quercetin supports reduction of histamine release.
Right. And
that's been shown in science, and the folks who are listening out there can put 2 and 2 together and think about how that might affect them. And so there's also another herb I want folks to be aware of that's been studied in particular for allergic rhinitis. And, of course, that's referring to the nasal passages. So that's inflammation of the nasal passages. And allergic rhinitis can do things like swell the lining of our nostrils. You ever had that experience where you can't breathe, but it's not like you're full of snot? It's kind of like
sure I have.
It's kind of like you're dry, but what happens with some people is their nostrils or their nasal passages swell from the inside, and so you try to breathe in through your nose, but it's like there's not a hole there anymore.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I have.
Okay. Yeah. So that's when they swell, and they swell in response to histamine and leukotrienes and stuff like this. So we can reduce that with some of these compounds we talked about, but butterbur in particular has had clinical studies on it in regards to allergic rhinitis, and it's been pretty effective. It's actually in studies, I wanted to tell everybody it's a great antihistamine, but the science shows that it really is not. But it's particularly useful against allergic rhinitis, and that appears to be because it's a great suppressor of these things called leukotrienes.
Yeah.
So for sinus issues, it can be wonderful. And there's a couple of products at O'Fallon Nutrition featuring butterbur for particularly like sinus issues, and it's wonderful stuff. I can't say enough about it. Customers have really, really been pleased with its effects. And there are also studies I should mention on butterbur and reduction of migraines. It's probably most famous for that. And anybody who's listening who may suffer from migraines, if they want to, they can do a quick Google search on Butterbur and migraines, and they'll find that there have been studies that show that it reduces the frequency of migraines dramatically.
Wow.
So, yeah, folks that get migraines tend to get a few of them a month, and in the studies with Butterbur, there's a big reduction in how many per month. So,
interesting.
Just another fun fact. So, the boil down for today, before we wrap everything up, is be aware that your diet can influence allergies. If you're starting to suffer from allergies, reducing sugar, alcohol, white flour, other things that you know are bad foods, candy, soda, etc. Reduce those things, and let's try to bring up your intake of berries and vegetables and healthy starches like sweet potatoes and beans.
Yeah.
And then, if we need to, let's be aware that besides all the pharmaceutical remedies out there, there are natural ones as well, and we can look for ingredients like vitamin C, quercetin, bromelain, stinging nettle, as well as Butterbur for support of immune system health during allergy season. And I think folks will tend to see a big, big difference with those. And finally, last but not least, I need to mention there are homeopathic remedies. We have those as well. They tend to be very inexpensive and can be great if these other things I mentioned don't help enough.
Yes.
And then finally, there are saline-based nasal sprays like the Clear nasal spray. The only thing I'll mention by name today, it's XLEAR, and it's pronounced Clear. And that helps to reduce allergens from sticking to the inside of the nasal passages using an ingredient called xylitol, which is made in the body.
Wow.
And with that, I'll wrap everything up, but I hope folks have a little broader perspective on allergies and our immune system today. And Steve, I hope we have a heck of a weekend now.
Oh, I think so too. I think a great show, and we have not talked about allergies. We've been doing the show for a long time now, and
Sure.
just never have really touched on this. And so it's a great show. Folks, tell your friends about this show, same time every weekend. And please tune in to Westplex Radio. You can also go to westplexradio.com and listen to us live. You can also click on the ad there for this show, which is right down on the left side near the top of our website, westplexradio.com. And you can obviously click on O'FallonNutrition.com right there. Of
course.
And stop into their new location. It's located just south of I-70, Highway K in O'Fallon, right down to Mexico Road there, and turn right. And right past the car wash, there's a plaza right up on the right. You'll see O'Fallon Nutrition on the far left of the plaza. There's a Slackers up there, a Quiznos. Make sure you go to O'Fallon Nutrition, everybody. It's a great place. Thanks for being with me, David. We'll see everybody next week.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, everybody. Go to our website, O'FallonNutrition.com. We have an event at the end of March on osteoporosis, so go to our website for details, O'FallonNutrition.com.
And we'll see you next week, everybody.